All right, welcome everyone. My name is Bo. I'm with Acelab. We are helping out today hosting this webinar, the Revolutionary Handrail, presented by the team at Promenaid. We've got Rob Geller here and Janice as well from their team. So really excited about this event today. This is an amazing product that really, something that I wish that I knew about when I was still practicing in architecture for sure. So really excited to dive deeper into the offerings that Promenaid has. I'm going to go ahead and start off with just a quick little intro about Acelab, show you how to get in touch with Promenaid right from Acelab's site, and give a quick tour of some of our tools over there. Just give some folks some more time to join. But if anyone has any additional questions about Acelab, you can always reach out to me. My email will be here at the end of these slides. So. All right, so as I mentioned, Acelab today is helping out to host this webinar. So Acelab is a digital platform that provides free and non-sponsored product research for architects and AEC professionals. This is a quick snapshot of our team. So we're designed, by architects for architects, really with the goals to be able to solve the own workflow issues that we were experiencing and practice ourselves. And to kind of give an idea of what some of those workflow issues are, as I'm sure we're all familiar, just the ability to save, store, and organize all of your product information, get in touch with the right people at the right times, and be able to, collaborate and communicate easily throughout the product research journey as well as the specification journey. So to that end, I'm going to quickly show you some stuff on Acelab's site. I will skip kind of our overall search tool process, but if you are interested in learning more about those, again, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to jump over here first and just show you if you are looking for someone and you know their name, just jump over to that search bar anytime and you can find the manufacturer's page right on Acelab. Manufacturer pages are all organized the same. So it's really a relief, I find, to be able to kind of jump back and forth from, different vendors and different manufacturers and still be able to kind of see all of the information in the same place. So you can also always get in touch with a rep right from their page. Just by clicking this contact button, you'll be prompted to either select a project or you can add a new one right from this page. Add a little more information, and you can also select exactly the product you're looking for, or if it's more general, just skip that. You can select exactly the information you're looking for as well, and then just go over and that will send over a message to Rob's team, and you'll have a conversation saved for you in your Acelab portal. All right, and then the one other thing I wanted to show today, this is a newer update that we're really excited about. So I had mentioned earlier that collaboration is a big part of this for us, and really just easing some of the communication barriers between architects, between manufacturers, and also internally between your team. So being able to kind of collaborate throughout this research process. So to that end, we have recently added some new collaboration tools that are really exciting. I'm going to jump into one of my projects and just show you how that looks. So the big one is that you can add your team members. So any projects that you set up on Acelab, you can invite collaborators. You can invite as many as you want just by entering their email. I'll go ahead and add myself. That'll send over an invitation with easy instructions for them on how to set up their account if they don't have one. If they already have one, super easy, they just have to accept. And then a collaborator will be able to do everything that you can do on an Acelab project. So see your conversations, your searches, your product shortlists, all of that good stuff. And product shortlists are where you can save products. And you can also comment back and forth with your team. So you're able to kind of add in that extra layer of information, besides product data, which of course we have all aggregated and stored here in, easy to read tables, apples to apples. But you can also add in that kind of additional layer of information from your team, your clients, your other collaborators, from the conversations that you have with manufacturers where you are learning about lead times and all of that kind of more specific information. And then the one other thing I'll show here, which is another exciting update. So you can see here I have some firm favorite projects on my folders. So we have the ability now for you to set up a firm favorites project. I'll sign into one of my other accounts to show you how that looks. So right here, when you sign into your account, you'll be able to request a firm favorite setup. So what that does is kind of helps out with the big barrier of like, okay, great, I've got an Acelab account, but I need to load in all of my information here and the products that I typically use and all of that good stuff. So if you request a setup or a firm favorites, that'll go right through to our team. And essentially an Acelab product specialist will work with you and work with whatever data you have, whether that's in spreadsheet, Google folders, to really be able to start to set up your shortlists and your projects on Acelab. All right. So that's my quick tour. With that, I'll kind of leave off the Acelab portion. We can get started with today's presentation about the revolutionary handrails. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email's right here. It's just bo@acelabusa.com. All right. So with that, I've got a few housekeeping things. One thing I wanted to mention is that we would really like to hear from you guys about, what kind of current pain points you have, what kind of successes you've had, or really any experiences, that you've had with handrail specification and design in the past. So I'm going to launch a quick intro poll right now. There will also be another poll at the end of today's webinar where if you'd like follow-up information, samples, installation info, you can request that directly from this webinar and we'll go ahead and connect you with Rob right after the webinar as well. So this first poll is just kind of an intro poll to get some people thinking. And I wanted to say that if you would like to raise your hand, we would love to hear some experiences from you. So here we go. So there's just a few questions here, yes or no, about, if you've had issues speccing handrails in the past, or if you've had any memorable positive experiences speccing handrails, as well as kind of if it's helpful for you to have Revit libraries available. And if anyone has some like additional comments about this or a little story about, a handrail nightmare you might have had, please feel free to raise your hand. We would really love to hear from you and get a little bit of a discussion going. Rob has been super kind and mentioned that, he's kind of able to tailor this conversation in this presentation based on feedback from our audience today. So if anyone has anything specific that they'd like to make sure gets covered in today's talk, feel free to raise your hand. And feel free to raise your hand at any time throughout the presentation. I'll kind of keep my eye on that and we'll unmute you if you have something to share with us. And then we'll also, of course, have, regular Q&A. So if you don't want to speak out loud, that is totally fine. Please feel free to submit questions to the Q&A box throughout today's presentation. I'll keep an eye on that as well. So we'll get to anything relevant, during the presentation. And we will definitely save some time at the end to try to be able to cover all of the questions that come in. And if we don't get to your question, we will have a record of it. So we'll be able to follow up with you after today's presentation as well. Right, looks like we've got some folks answering. Interesting. Good amount of people who have had some issues speccing handrails. Looks like about 30% of you. And then again, about 30% of you have had some memorable positive experiences speccing handrails. So that's interesting. And then let's see, yeah, like 75% and 70% are saying that they haven't had so many issues or that they haven't had a ton of memorable experiences. We're getting a lot of yeses for the Revit library available for download. People are definitely saying that that's helpful. So that's really great to know. All right, let's see. I will put in the reminder once more. I don't see any hands raised, but please feel free to raise your hand if you want to give a little story or a comment. You don't have to turn your camera on also, so that's a good thing to know. You can totally stay camera off, but yeah, we would just love to hear from the audience today. If anybody feels compelled to speak, please feel free to do so. All right, with that, Rob, feel free to kind of go ahead and take it away, and I'll just be here to kind of let you know if I see anyone's hand raised or anyone jump into the Q&A box, then we'll go ahead and cover that.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Bo said something that we hear a lot. She said, I wish I knew about you guys 6 months ago. And we hear that, on a very regular basis, which gives us some optimism that we've created something really different and needed. I see there's one question about SketchUp in the Q&A. I know my team can work with SketchUp, and I will check with them if they can provide SketchUps. But we've worked with a lot of SketchUp submissions, so I'll just if you send that in, yes, I'll see if they can send out a SketchUp file. So The other thing is, Bo used the word experience, and we've discovered that handrails are a long, drawn-out experience. We try to make it, our goal is to make it shorter and almost a very quick experience, but it certainly is a lot more than just installing a handrail. And a lot of you know the frustrations that people have run into, and you know, some of the common hassles. I want to give you just a quick background to put this all in context. I'm one of the co-owners of the company. My business partner, Kel Warshaw, invented the whole product line, and it came from his uncle, who lived in this beautiful house, 4 stories. I was also a neighbor of his uncle. Kel and I have been friends since about the mid-1960s. And David had to put handrails in his house. He had polio as a child, so he needed something really strong and really beautiful. And the experience was, it was a real, I wouldn't say it was a nightmare, but it certainly was an ordeal. It took a long time and a lot of money. And David, as an architect, was always thinking about how can I make something easier, better, accessible to more people. And coincidentally or serendipitously, Kel is a brilliant industrial designer, and actually designed and manufactured the world's first ADA compliant hand dryer. So David was calling Kel for years and years with one idea after another, and it was either already on the market or not practical. And this came along, and David, after his experience with the handrail, called Kel, and Kel said, I did what I always do. I hung up on David, went on online to see the products that were already there to prove David was too late. And 3 or 4 hours later, I was still looking. So he had a sense that there really wasn't anything like this on the market. So that was back in 2009, 2010. Kel and I still own and operate the company. Everything's manufactured locally, really just a couple of kilometers from where I'm sitting. We've got one plant in Minnesota who does a specialty item for us. And we're starting to serve, right around the globe, every province, every state. We've been shipping to New Zealand for a couple of years. We're now shipping to Australia and Norway. And we've always had a direct model. We've got some small dealers who do the accessibility type work for small renovations in, aging population and mobility impaired. But for commercial, everything is direct. For a number of reasons. The understanding of handrails in general, but also the understanding and familiarity with Promenaid specifically just isn't there within the distributor network. And when I say direct, I really mean direct. You can contact us at any time. I love getting phone calls, frankly. After this many years of typing and emails, I'm very tired of typing. So you can give me a shout anytime. So what I wanted to go through today was we started this from scratch, and I always have a bit of a chuckle when I see expert, but we've been obsessing about this for close to 14 years now, about handrails, and we know these things inside out. But we certainly didn't at the start of it. So I wanted to talk about some of the surprises we got along the way and what the business has evolved to. We thought we were, like any project or business you start in one direction. And then as you learn and gain more experience, you discover really what the business is about. So all the expected, the usual sort of beefs and complaints and things about handrail, I got to do it, or what or we've come up with something that you'll see is really innovative. But our experience with humanity is, no matter how much improved something is over another thing, there's a resistance to change. So I've always said we probably need a vice president of human psychology here, rather than in addition to everything else. But once people experience it and give it a try, they're in. And we were, like I said, we were pretty sure there was nothing like it on the market, but neither of us were from the handrail industry. But we, as much as we searched, you know, around the globe, we really couldn't find anything similar. The surprises were some of the, what now, you know, after this many years experience, what seems like an obvious unfulfilled unmet need is that they're still there. Some real, to us, obvious shortcomings in the art of the handrail and related just hadn't been addressed. Still, now we're traveling the world. We still, you know, we go to trade shows and you talk to thousands of people. Still nothing like it on the market. Probably the biggest surprise, though, was the response from our customers. And these are the people who were installing it and putting it in their homes and their businesses or doing the installation. I don't know that there's many companies that are going to get unsolicited emails and phone calls thanking them for a piece of infrastructure. We've been mentioned in family Christmas newsletters. You know, there was one gentleman who was really confined to 1 or 2 rooms of his condo, and they put handrails throughout the condo, and it gave him his house back. There was a woman who lived just very, very close to me, coincidentally. They had a split level house, and her husband was in his 80s, and he would somehow bring her down 4 or 5 stairs to the living room in the morning, and she was on that level the whole day and couldn't navigate the stairs. Their only choice was a stair lift. So they didn't want to spend $10,000 or whatever it is for 4 stairs. And we put the handrail in, and they called us up that we'd given them the house back. So we knew that it was different and it was good, but we just never expected that type of response. And it's really rewarding, because I can't work just to sell a widget or keep count of the bank account. That new car smell goes away. And we never tire of hearing these thank yous. Installers who thought that there was no way they were going to get something done on time, you know, call us up. They just couldn't believe how easy it is. One of them called last week, and I think I interpreted him the right way. He said the only thing that could have been easier was if somebody else did it, and he was just it was meant as a compliment. So we love hearing those things. So when David discovered his problem, it took a long time, and we approached it from the installation context. It had to be beautiful. You can always get away with beautiful where ugly will suffice, but not the other way around. He saw that it had to be specialists, and he really wanted something that anyone could install without compromising the integrity of the product, the code. It needed to be quick, and he didn't fully understand the versatility requirement, but we knew that there were a lot of applications, and we didn't want to make a confusing product that takes forever to adapt to one thing or another. So, and like I said, not sacrificing any code compliance. So Cal being the ADA, you know, familiar with the ADA, that was our starting point. I think this might be the only handrail that is really marketed to and appropriate for any of these scenarios. So we're doing all of that. But as we discovered, as the word that Bo said was experience, the installation scratches the surface. We started with an installation challenge, and we've discovered the spectrum of everything that needs to be done. So we're involved from the pre-design phase through the design phase, through the construction, through the post-construction shakeout, and you know, years later, if any issues come up, which thankfully they haven't. So we've become, like I said, we've become experts. We know the code inside out. We know handrail design, things like measuring that a lot of people aren't familiar with. Planning, how do we ship it? We have to figure out how to ship it, and it stayed. in good, it arrived in good shape. We do a lot of training for our, we have a whole, library of training materials, which is really critical. So all these things, I mean, the product itself almost became the easy part. It's all these intangibles that we really had to figure out. And quite often there's an emergency. We'll get a call, I can't get my certificate of occupancy. And for some reason, the building inspector always comes Tuesday. I need it by Tuesday. And we can, often get it there in 24 hours. So those types of issues are something that is almost commonplace for us to service now. So ultimately, what took David 6 months, we can do in days, and we can do it actually in as little as 24 hours. We had a client call us from Los Angeles. We're in Montreal, by the way. Client called from Los Angeles. It was a Thursday morning. Their mother wouldn't be allowed out of the hospital until there was a code compliant handrail on the wall. And it was designed, shipped, and installed by 1 o'clock Friday afternoon. So it's not, that's not an uncommon occurrence for us. We can't always get it in 24 hours, but it's, not, I don't think there's many other handrails that can do that. So what I want to do quickly is just show you the scope of what we can do, and then get into the type of support and where it makes your life easier, because that's what it's really all about. It's a system that good for indoors and out, and almost all these photos you're seeing, a lot of are from customers, either homeowners or really large construction companies who were installing Promenaid for the first time and had never seen it or touched it before. We do all sorts of, it is used in all sorts of environments. So it's a bit of a mix here of the types of things that we can do and also where we can do it. So hospitality, education, Boston College has spec'd us in for a number of projects, a new auditorium, some lecture halls that were done. The Indy Motor Speedway, a couple of years ago, we got a call. It was April 10th, I think, and the crowd starts showing up May 1st. And they had rebuilt the deck and ramp that's on the adjacent golf course. There's a golf course actually that a couple of the holes are inside the track. And they could not find a handrail anywhere within the Indiana, Kentucky area that could deliver on time. So this job was, like I said, he called us April 10th, I think, and this is a photo from April 28th. So very, very pleased with that. You see, it's also freestanding and ramps. It's not just wall mount. We do a lot of senior living and healthcare. This is where we thought the market was when we started 10 years ago, because there was all these senior living facilities going up and becoming more and more populated. What we didn't realize was that the hallway handrails are not required by code. So this is something new. You got a building manager who never got in trouble for not putting in a Promenaid handrail. So now we were dealing more with not whether it was needed or not, but this, like as talking about the reluctance to change. But now we've been around and survived long enough. The market really has evolved. We're getting calls all the time. So this was a beautiful. This was a big renovation, hallway renovation in San Diego that was about 9,000 feet required. And then we got a call from Baptist Medical Center in Jacksonville. They were building a whole number of new facilities. So we're supplying all the hallway handrail for that. And that's close to 15,000 feet, installed by all different trades. This one here in Jacksonville, that was installed by the drywall sub. We've got carpenters, drywall. Sometimes it's the mill workers, sometimes it's the steel workers, but really it's anybody who wants to install it. Like a couple of other senior living and healthcare applications. This was a neat one because nobody else could figure out how to do this. Our brackets go anywhere you need at any time, and they need something to fit very specifically onto the frame. So this, we have this designed in 5 minutes. It's good indoor and outdoor bath shower. So all the same components, just configured differently. And we've got some anodized, these are anodized, so good for dry, wet conditions, very, very durable. We've also, the instant we created the product, and you'll see why in a second when I show you some of the profile and design, LEDs were the obvious thing to include in them. But the challenge was it's a modular system. So we actually had to develop a custom designed LED. So you can see it's a small module, about 1.5 inches long. That's the actual piece. And just to put the size in context, but you can put them anywhere, indoor, outdoor, dimmable, compatible with Alexa, Google, any of those systems. We can do glass mounting now too, so this is becoming more popular. So it's a standard bracket, and we just have an adapter kit. We do not supply the glass and the footings, but what's really nice about this is if the holes are not drilled in exactly the right spot, it really doesn't matter to us. We're still going to be able to get the bracket on that drill. We're getting into more and more commercial applications, so guardrails and balusters, and this is, again, goes together really quickly. This was done by Carolina Ironworks. There was a big project in Rock Hill, South Carolina called the Powerhouse. If you look it up, I meant to put the link in there, but it's an interesting, really cool project. So we're doing stairs. We even modified the system to be a guardrail, a removable guardrail at the front of the stage that they have there. So as I showed before, freestanding for ramps, walkways. We do a lot of ramps. And one thing that came to us is that our clients were always asking, how do you get the post pivoted to offset the slope? There was shimming and everything. And so we've developed a line of post bases that you can actually pivot the post to offset the slope of the ramp. I'll show you a few more details on that. This is actually in Kel's house. This is a commercial grade larger post with this is a really sturdy base as well. My apologies, we've got white, but he just didn't have the white piece there yet when he was doing it. Can you see my arrow, my cursor, with bow?
Yes.
Okay, good. And the other is this, you'll see these are both surface mounted, but this is a bulk item in our shop, 20-foot pieces. So we can cut them to any length. So they can be surface mounted or encased in concrete. And this is something really cool that we're coming out with. We have a series of bends that are made out of zinc, and I'll show you those in a second, that allow you to create a custom bend on the job site without any welding or bending. And of course, that type of thing didn't exist. The instant people saw these our wood handrails, because we have a model that is wood wrapped, and I'm going to show you all the models. Of course, they wanted them in wood, so we've been trying to figure out for a couple of years how to do this. So you can do a custom bend out of solid wood. So that's the product side of it. But going back to the tip of the iceberg, there are so many other challenges and bottlenecks and choke points or weak links in the chain. Our ultimate goal, if we could have Mount Olympus of goals, is that the architect would spec it and forget it, and then we take care of almost everything else. I'm not saying we're going to get there, but I think we're getting pretty close. So I'm going to show you a couple of things that we do. So we will take on as much as you need. We review plans. Somebody was asking in a previous webinar when we get involved. As early as possible is great, because we often get plans in that we would have done differently. Sometimes walls are in a place where it makes it difficult to conform to code. There could be some easy fixes that can be prevented, prevent some hassles down the road. But in any case, we've still been able to solve them all, maybe not as elegantly as we'd like. So the way our system works is we get plans in, either the CAD file, the DWG file, or PDF. We have a team of Revit designers. They will do the renders, detailed takeoffs, shops. We have a whole library of technical documents for you, the specs, the instructions and everything, the library for you to download. We've got a nice compact sample kit. We know that space is a premium. So we can provide you samples, and if you want, send them back. Not everybody wants to keep them around, but we're here right through, from start to not just finish, but ad infinitum after. So, and we haven't got many calls, too long after any installation's done. So that's an indication that the system has been really, really durable. Here's some of the renders we do, because we want to make sure that our 3D vision of what you are asking for matches yours. And these have come in really, really handy. So this is really standard, standard support that we give for any job. Sometimes not really needed. It's just a straight railing, or a hallway railing, but still. We get very detailed with the quotes and the takeoffs we provide. See, just almost right down to the individual screw. And then if the job is accepted and we're awarded the contract, we provide the shop drawings for the installers as just a standard procedure. And they have our phone number. They call us from the job site if they need. And also, we've got, fortunately, I like the way the question was answered. We've got a BIM library that you can download. It's being updated at the moment, but you can still get this version of it. We can send out the link after. I think in the follow-up email, I'll send the link to Bo. And
oh, sorry, real quick. I just wanted to pause as you were talking about price quotes and samples and stuff. I launched our poll, so anyone who's interested in samples, all of that, you can go ahead and just answer the poll, and we'll coordinate samples for you after the event. There will be a post-event survey where you can enter your address and everything. So after the survey, you're good to go, and we'll follow up with all that information. Yeah.
Are there any questions that have been asked that because I'm not?
Let's see. I don't see any in the Q&A right now, but yeah, again, everyone feel free to answer or enter those whenever, and we'll jump over.
We are constantly creating how-to videos that it's all on YouTube. We've got a lot of positive feedback on it. We've actually been awarded a number of jobs because we have the videos, because the general contractor will talk to their sub and say, hey, we want to use this stuff, and the sub will say, I've never used Promenaid before, and they send them the link to they send them our instructions, our PDF of instructions and the YouTube series, and the sub says no problem. So we only offer round profiles, and I'm going to show you why in a moment. But for a couple of reasons. One is the code is evolving and migrating to round. The handrail has to be graspable, and so while it doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly round, it has to be round, effectively round and graspable. and also our system works perfectly. Geometry is maybe our best intellectual property protector. Our articulating bends only work if it's perfectly round. And it's also, inventory and product line control. It adds up really quickly. So, let me just close that. So how does this system work? Well, the first is, what do you want to see, the type of finishes? So when we started the company, it was a horizontal silver handrail that you kind of tilt on its side. We have a very innovative system, and you can see that there's a profile. This is the rail, and this channel is the entire length. You can put the bracket in anywhere you want. You lock it in place, that's it. And then you pivot the railing to whatever slope you need or horizontally. And each one of these brackets will hold 500 pounds. So it's 500 pounds cumulatively. So at minimum, get a bracket into two brackets into the studs, and you've got 1,000 pounds of support. So we have a number of anodized. So these are the indoor-outdoor shower, a champagne silver, satin black, which is very popular. And it's the satin too about it that's popular. We don't see a lot of this nice matte or satin black finish. A clear, brighter silver. We've just come out with satin white. We've been asked for a long time about white, and we just couldn't. It never came out just as good as we wanted, and we found a supplier that could do a really elegant powder coat. I remember one of the trials we did. I walked in and I thought we had ordered 20-foot long fluorescent light bulbs. It was just this glary, glossy white. So this, this is a nice soft white, and it's powder coated, so it's the exact same as the hardware. All the hardware is powder coat, architectural bronze, and we also have 3 wood models, and this is real wood. Let's see if you can see it, and it's a thin layer of real wood bonded to the aluminum. So counterintuitively to me, it's actually stronger than solid wood because it's so thin it takes on the properties of the aluminum, never warps. You can have a 16-foot long piece that has absolutely no defects in it. Good question about the scuffs and visible damage. I don't know that Kel's the industrial designer production guy. I don't know that he did this intentionally, but anodizing is fabulous for resisting scuffs and abrasions. So if you get it, if somebody marks it up, something like Comet, Ajax, Barkeeper, I can never remember, Barkeeper's Friend, and a damp cloth, and you can just polish out that damage. We sent a shipment to New Zealand that was on the ocean for 6 or 7 weeks, and there was a lot we didn't realize at the time. This is going back about 5 years. There were a lot of filings in the package, in the inside the railing from the cutting, almost like metal sawdust. And it, over the course of those 6-7 weeks, got out and really kind of marked up the ends of the handrails, and they had it fixed up literally within an hour or two. They just so that saved our rear end and a customer and a reputation. But really, I don't know that we've ever gotten anything returned. Let me just and here's the hardware. Like I said, it's all powder. It's cast zinc, really solid, and in complementary but not necessarily matching colors. Black is going to match very closely, but you have a different material in a different substrate. So powder coat on zinc versus anodized railing. It's not going to be exactly the same, except the black is pretty darn close. And of course, the white, which I don't have an image of a white piece of hardware yet because we just got it. They're finished exactly the same. So this is not going to show beautifully, over a computer camera, but so that'll match perfectly. But it's all mix and match. We've had people, do the oak with black, oak with silver, oak with, champagne, oak with brass. It's, anything to, any look that they want. So we had to solve a couple of problems. The first is what David saw when they were installing was if they missed the stud or they missed the weld. They had all the studs measured, and they'd go to the shop and they'd weld it, and they'd come and it would be off by a second or a second. It'd be off by half an inch. Off, undo the weld, reposition it. So that's why we have this system where you can put the bracket wherever you want. What David wasn't thinking about was also how do you secure it to the railing. So that's where this came, this sort of a cam head system, and it really just bites in there. So you can get it to any stud or just, have the right, move them just for some visual symmetry. And as I was saying earlier, they support a ton of weight that, I think that the wall is coming down before any railing is coming out of the wall. And these can be attached to anything, drywall, commercial metal studs. We've done brick, concrete, cinder block, no end of substrates. Back to the question about profile. This is the profile. All 1.5 or 1.6 inch diameter. It's the same size as a Schedule 40 1.25 aluminum pipe because we thought maybe at one point we'd be marrying up with some existing construction that's in place. So, but with this reinforcing, it takes a lot of stresses, and easily trimmed. This is like 2x4s. So depending on the job, we'll send either bulk length. So that job of 9,000 feet, we just sent them a whole pallet of 20-foot railing. Smaller job, they needed 73 inches. We cut it 73 inches. We actually sell the railing by the inch, and we will just work with the customer to send them the lengths that are most convenient for them. Something we learned was not only the convenience of having the right length, but for some of these senior living residences, for example, you have a whole host of different lengths. So although we could cut it to the right length, they would end up spending days just sorting it. So it's just easier for them to cut it. But then we've also discovered, okay, what are the practicalities on the job site? Because we have these in 20-foot lengths. We will ask them, what length can you manage on the job site? So even if they, it's thousands and thousands of feet, if they needed 10-foot pieces, we'll send 10-foot pieces. So these are the styles of brackets. The pivoting bracket was our first bracket that I showed you. This sprocket lock bracket is for higher volume, higher traffic, or just style people like, because you can see here, you can see the screws. A lot of people don't mind that. They really like the rectilinear design. Kel claims that the reason everything's like that is you can only draw squares and circles, but I don't believe them. But we've got a lot of architects have told us that one of the things that attracted them to us was this profile. And this will perform the same function as the pivoting bracket, except it also has a hidden fastener. It goes into the lag bolt, and also it has passage for the wiring to come in. We've just developed a system to get the LED wiring into that one. And there's some top mounting, or you got a half wall, or this is good for grab bars or extra. So this, or like at the top of the post, you've got the railing that has to go on the top of the post. So that will perform that. This is one of our clients who's very proud. This is a senior living center, and they needed something for their exercise room. So he wanted to show us that it really worked. The big challenge is also continuity. How do you do all this stuff, get around bends and slope changes and compound corners with, steel or wood, between mitering and joining or welding, bending? So we've developed a system that was inspired by dryer ductwork. Kel was actually looking for something in his basement, and at the same time we were working on how are we going to do something that's easy to create on a job site, and saw his dryer ductwork. So there's literally no bending. Where is it? Here. All you need is an Allen key, and I'll show you kind of how it works in a second. We have a whole series of bends that can be used alone or in combination. They perform different functions. So the 5 degree and the 32 are very specific because a ramp has a 5 degree slope and a commercial stair is a 32 degree slope. So you can go from horizontal to 32 degrees just by joining the railing on either end of this seamless, smooth bend. We got a lot of jobs because one of the biggest manufacturers in the world didn't have the capacity to do a 5 degree bend. So we're doing all of the, that's one of the reasons we're doing a lot of that work in the hospitals. The 90 degree is a lot of other manufacturers, you'll have an inside and an outside. We use the same thing, we just adjust the length of the railing, and this will perform a number of functions. It can be a corner, or it can be a wall return and actually provide structural support. This is what it looks like unassembled. So essentially the inside of any bend is, you've got this sprocket that is either going to fasten to the wall, or it's going to join a bend to a bend. So this is, and any one of those bends can fasten to another bend, a railing, or the wall. So you can even come off at a 32 degree bend. And you see, all you do is, it's just a hex screw. You just need a ball hex screwdriver. It's a standard size. You loosen it up, and this is 2 of them put together. I don't know if you can see. And if there's 3, you can just loosen this up, rotate it, rotate the 2 outers, and you create the bend on the job site. So what this has done is there's always variances between the plans and the as-built, and we never get people coming back to us saying I got the wrong thing, because the angle is never going to be exactly what it's going to be. Certainly if it's a homeowner sending us just tape measurements. So between adjusting the length of the railing and rotating the brackets, everything adjusts on the fly on the job site. So it's really made a huge difference. We had one job, it was a 4-story walk-up, switchback stairway. It was in Boston. Every one of the landings was a different dimension, and I think they were supposed to be the same. Never called, never had a problem. They just, created and adjusted it on the fly. And then also, how do you connect them? How do you terminate? Because if you're constantly cutting, you never know where the end is. So you can just pop this on. Let me just do that. This goes on like that, or the wall return, and just pops on. And I can't tell you how many times somebody has ordered either on our website, or we've got homeowners can order off Amazon. They'll order this and not realizing that this is required because they need to get a certificate of occupancy, or they're selling their house, or for whatever reason they there's going to be an inspection, and the inspector comes and says So 24 hours later they have this, they let me see if you can see that. This goes on with a set screw. This is a connector. They undo the set screw, pop that on. This is to, I don't want to confuse things. This is a connector. This is how a bend connects to the railing, just with this sprocket. But just goes on with set screws, and they have a code compliant railing within seconds. This is something that is just coming out, and we think it's going to be quite significant for the business. This is a commercial grade post, and you can see this is a. It looks like an escutcheon, because quite often you'll have a post that is encased in concrete, and then there's an escutcheon over it. But if it's on a ramp or a slope of any kind, how do you offset that slope? So you can just rotate it, as you can see here. Oops. You can see that this is about 3 inches in diameter, and just 2 zinc pieces cut on the diagonal. And as you rotate it, you get to the angle you need. This is what the inside looks like, and we've thought of a lot of details right here. Once those are together, if you have a 1 to 12 ramp, you just dial this, and on the underside there's a window somewhere there where you can see that, and just set it and then attach it in. Goes in with one expansion bolt into the ground, and a real sturdy. This is a 2-inch diameter Schedule 40 pipe. So we're starting to do stadiums and auditoriums, and we're doing I think it's 800 feet of elevated walkway for the Orlando Utilities Commission. All balusters, guardrails, LEDs, and all using this. The lead architect on the job, when he saw the initial proposal from a welder, said it looks like a Frankenstein job. And he and I had just met at a conference, and he called me up right away and said, "You guys can do this." So it was pretty rewarding. So to wrap things up, we're getting close to the end here. We are trying to simplify everything from start to finish. It's almost from before the start to forever after. Really sublime, elegant design, sublime solution. And as I was describing, how versatile it is, not just in all the applications, but the responsiveness or the flexibility it has on the job site. You don't have to go back. And speed has become an issue. So what we've discovered is the sequencing and when the decision on the handrail has to be made has completely changed. In fact, you can, if you're designing something and the design phase is months or, over the course of years, opinions change, humans change their taste, personnel may change, who knows? But that decision doesn't have to be made 6 months before. That 9,000-foot order, we had that packed and delivered in 2 or 2.5 weeks. So that changes. This is a system that adapts to your needs, not the other way around. It's not the rate limiting factor. And like I said, the product is, for us, we can design the product we want. But that is such a small element of what makes the experience and the install and everything a success, is knowing what we're doing, being there and responsive, and providing you with as much support and resources that you need. We're constantly learning. Almost everything you see, aside from that horizontal silver handrail, was some things we kind of intuitively knew, but a lot of it came from customers who maybe they didn't articulate they want this. Like, nobody said to Steve Jobs, "I want an iPod," but everybody knew that they couldn't stand having CDs strewn all over their house and all over their car. So we'll hear them complaining about one thing or another, or just the tone of voice, and go, okay, here's something that's needed. So Yeah, so there's a question here. Can I drop by your shop in Montreal? Absolutely. It is done on, we do the fulfillment and shipping from here. And a lot of what you saw were done by homeowners. And they are, surprising us all the time. But if I go back to the slide, something we didn't expect, David's mandate was it needs to be a DIY. What we discovered was, unless you are a mill worker or a stair railing specialist, you are a DIY. You might be a trade, might be in the building trades, but the carpenters, drywall, metal workers, just general trades, that's DIY with maybe a few more tools and a few more, bit more experience. But their challenges are almost exactly, exactly the same. There was something I was going to say. I didn't actually lie, but the business we're in, we discovered that we're not in the handrail business. It happens to be a handrail. We obsess about making everything as simple as possible, taking the burden off you. And so our business really is simplifying, and we obsess about that just about every day. And there's David. I just found this picture. David sadly passed away about 2 years ago. He knew me from before I was born. He was friends with my parents before I was born, and that's he's proudly holding our very first patent that we were awarded. And I think we're up to about 10 or 11 or 12 patents now. So that's the story. We would love to hear from you. If you, you know what, I'm going to type the answer. Did Rossmall, I'm not sure if that's your, if you want to email me or email Bo, and I'll get you all our info. Actually, what I'll do right now is I don't mind.
And yeah, while we're here, just a reminder for anyone else who would like follow-up info, feel free to just go ahead and enter that on the poll. We'll connect you with Rob directly after this. And if you responded yes to samples, which I see quite a few of you did, please just stay tuned for the post-event survey. It'll come up right when you finish this webinar, and that'll give you the option to enter your address. That way we don't have to kind of chase you down for an address. We can just send out those samples to you.
Yeah. Oh, so I just see another comment here from, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Rossmall. Cutting metal is a challenge to correct angle. It only needs to be cut on a perpendicular 90-degree. Actually, the cheaper miter saws, because all you need to do any installation is a miter saw, a drill, a chop saw, and an Allen key. And every cut has to be vertical. So a compound miter saw that you can change the angle sometimes isn't the greatest thing. Just those simple ones, it's a straight up and down cut just like that on every piece. This is where the angles come in.
Great. All right, and I'll put in one last call for questions. We've got like 1 minute left. So if anybody has a last minute question, feel free to throw it in. But if not, we will follow up with you after the event. If you have any other questions, you'll get Rob's contact info and all of that good stuff.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Rob. I also love this. I've never seen a photo of Dave. So this is a really nice way to end with the inspiration behind the whole thing. But yeah, thank you so much for that presentation. I really loved what you were talking about how you, the Steve Jobs analogy of how you kind of listen to, the needs and like infer what architects are looking for based on, your ability to kind of like tune into the real pain points that architects are experiencing. And that's something that I've noticed, the more I learn about Promenaid systems, that they really are a manufacturer who is listening to what's needed. And you can tell that an architect was behind it all.
Yeah, he was very, very well known here in Montreal, and I think throughout Canada. And we were very fortunate, I guess, just the stars lined up that we all knew each other. And David's motivation was to bring something better to the world. Didn't want any return on investment or anything. Just wanted it to happen. So
Yeah.
we were very fortunate that way.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out, for participating in our polls and our Q&A. We really appreciate it. And we'll definitely be in touch with some of you with some follow-up information. You can expect some samples as well. So yeah, feel free to reach out to Rob or I after the event if there's anything else you need. And I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their Thursday.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Rob.